morning. I'm out here in the cold 56-degree weather. The sun's just coming up, and it's absolutely beautiful. Feels stunning, feels a little bit fall as summer comes to a sad, but frankly this year welcomed conclusion for me, as the heat has made training and life in general a little harder.
This is in no way an original thought, but I listened to a lecture recently on suicide prevention that just sort of made this concept click with me in a way that I've been thinking about pretty deeply, and I just kind of want to talk about it as a way of my own processing it. So it's very fresh and unrefined, but what this lecture was speaking about was when they looked at people who have attempted suicide versus just having some sort of negative outlook on life or depression, or what is the key factor that pushes somebody to such an extreme action. And it is that they believe that everything is going wrong in their life, but the key thing is that they believe that it is their fault. This is particularly interesting to me because as I've listened and learned and thought about consumerism and the social structures, the economic structures of the United States in particular, as an example, Western countries, we live in we strive for meritocracy, this idea that you are the result of your actions. You are not the result of luck. You are the result of making all the right decisions. In that same cultural construction, we value and strive for, in a very noble sense, I think it's a net positive, in concept and on paper, for equality. This idea that everybody starts with the same education, the same economic status, the same upbringing, the same access to food, and whatever it is, everybody has access to the same tools, and so everyone is starting from the same platform. And while that is a good thing, it does reinforce this idea that everything from there up is a direct result of as an individual, your actions. So if you have a business and you start it and you do all the right things and you fail and you tell somebody about this, you or myself, I'm not above this, I would do the same thing. Your kind of internal dialogue would be, okay, well, you're not a good business owner. You probably made some mistakes and you probably did some things wrong. And so that puts all the pressure on that individual in that individual's merit, when in reality they could have done all the right things, but the business could have just failed. It's like the book or movie, Time Machine, and no matter how many times you've gone back, they could have just failed the same way because of economic purposes or luck. And who knows, a tree fell in the business and they couldn't financially recover from that, whatever. But in a social construct, that is most likely going to be some part of your thought process when hearing about this story is, well, what did you do wrong? It wouldn't be potentially something different. However, in some cultures, I think of this documentary Terra, that is great, highly recommend. But they illustrate, showcase, or show a culture that I want to say is India. It's been a long time. I'm probably misrepresenting that, but whatever. They all sacrifice a farm animal. I think it has to be a goat, could be any farm animal, but they sacrifice a goat to a god that is responsible for financial success. You could sacrifice that goat to that god. That god chooses that you're not financially successful for whatever reason. And, you could say, hey, listen, I sacrificed the goat, but that God just didn't grant me that financial success. And that takes the pressure off of that person and is freeing in some cases. And, this isn't an endorsement of that particular belief system or anything, but it's just an example of how that's like a non-merit based value system. But in the United States, as an example, many Western cultures, we don't have those sort of belief systems. We believe that you are the direct result of your actions. And that puts a tremendous amount of pressure on the individual to say that if your life goes wrong, it's because you made wrong decisions and it was your fault. And so when you tie it back to equality, and everybody starts on the same thing, the more you strive for equality, the more your potential unintended result is to strengthen the idea of meritocracy. That, listen, you were given all the tools and you still fucked up. That's kind of the concept that I've been thinking about. And I don't know what you do with this information. I'm not advocating or for or against anything. I just think it's an interesting sort of like social paradox. And I think that that is the result of a lot of people feeling a tremendous amount of pressure on themselves and feeling like, well, maybe, I'm just a failure in life if everything doesn't go wrong for them. And for a lot of people, things go very, very wrong for a long period of time. And so you'll see how that is. But I've long thought about or said that, Americans are a direct result of our consumption. Our identity is a result of our consumption. So if you drive a Ferrari, that is a representation of your merit. That's part of your meritocracy. That's what you're showing everybody that, hey, I have achieved this. I'm good at this. I can do this. I'm successful. This is my merit. And that reinforces that same sort of thing. You look at somebody who is incredibly successful and you think about, wow, they're really good at what they do. And you don't necessarily consider, whatever head starts or that you want to perceive they received. And so that equality can help reduce that of knowing, well, that person didn't receive $1 billion from their parents and they did just start from nothing and they came from nothing. And that's a net good. But on the flip side, if things go bad, it all comes back to the individual. So, and whether or not this is true, in terms of like whether or not it's fair to measure somebody on these scales or not is irrelevant to what I'm interested in thinking about. It's just this kind of like paradox that equality and meritocracy have on each other, and the way it plays into internal identity pressures. And I think as we've divorced ourselves from religion, and I'm not somebody to advocate for any organized religion or anything per se, it does make me wonder, as we've moved away from religion, you take Christianity and you think about how or let's not use Christianity. When you look at religion uses a lot of external forces that influence your life. And so it does give you sort of outs. Whether or not that's right or wrong, again, irrelevant. It's just, I don't know. It's interesting to me. So just some thoughts, I guess.